So this is a response video. So Ashley at Climb the Stacks did this marvellous video on her reading history and how her attitudes changed to reading over time. And then SteveReadsBooks did a really great video response to this, so I thought I would chip in as well. So my reading experience really started when my parents read books to me, picture books, and then moved on to chapter books. It didn't take me too long to figure out that I could start reading some of those things myself as well. So before we were reading that level of book at school, I started reading them at home. The first chapter book that I read was Dolphins at Daybreak, which was part of the Magic Tree House series. I read most of the books in this series. They were from the library, so I don't own any, and I didn't own any. But I love the adventure stories, how every book was a bit different because they would go to a different period in history or a different place. So I was really into series from the get-go. So I had the Magic Tree House, I read the Babysitter's Club Little Sisters series, the Jewel Kingdom, anything by Enid Blyton, particularly the Famous Five, and a lot of books by Dick King-Smith, which I don't really remember. Around this time at primary school as well, I started having the Narnia books read to me, and then I started reading those myself too. I got my first Harry Potter book for my 8th birthday, and that book has been read and reread so many times. Later on at primary school I also read the Philip Pullman books, his Dark Materials. Those I also reread quite a bit. At that stage I was very much an author person. I would find an author that I liked, latch onto them and read everything they had written. I was also a very, very picky child. If my mum would ask the librarian, oh, what's something good for somebody who likes this? And I would read the first few pages and go, nah, it's not like that. So I did a lot of rereading at that point as well. At high school I discovered adult fiction. From the beginning of my teens I read the Dan Brown books and other popular adult fiction like The Time Traveler's Wife and The Lovely Bones. The latter part of my high school years I started reading more literary fiction and classics. Some of the more well-known classics like Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, Pride and Prejudice. That reading selection got me through doing a scholarship English paper as well, which was great fun. In terms of the books that we were prescribed for school, I remember really not liking, particularly in my early years of high school, really not liking being given books and told you have to read this. That was a bit of a carryover, I think, from me being a really picky reader as a child. I also have a lot of thoughts on the kinds of texts that we were given at school, and I want to make a whole nother video on that. So in terms of English at school, I really didn't enjoy it. I've always been a perfectionist when it comes to marks. Try as I might, I couldn't get the top mark for English in anything. Until I got to year 12, had a different teacher, and suddenly I could get top marks in everything in English. So that was a bonus. That certainly boosted my confidence. We studied some really interesting books at that time. We did quite a bit of Shakespeare and also Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. So then at university, anyone who's studied English at uni will know that you get stacks and stacks to read, and I did not read everything that I should have. So when I finished the English part of my degree, I really stopped reading for a good few months. When I did go back to reading, I started reading non-fiction more. This was interesting because I was reading non-fiction for my art history courses at that time. So I wanted something that was different to the art history stuff, but wasn't what I had been reading all that time previously. So fiction was out for a wee while there. I read a couple of biographies, some popular psychology and philosophy books, just some stuff that was different. So after my first year I decided to major in art history and English. Those were my favourite subjects at the time, what I found most interesting. After finishing my degree I decided that that wasn't quite what I wanted to do. There wasn't anything creative enough within that. So now I'm doing some papers in graphic design. That's something that really interests me. It's practical as well as being really creative. Ideally I think I'd like to go into publishing because that combines the skills that I have in English and my love of reading, as well as my design skills. There are so many beautiful book designs around at the moment, and I think that's particularly true as ebooks have become more popular, that publishers are putting more effort into making books a really beautiful artifact that people want to keep on their bookshelf. To be honest, I read more books this year when I finished my studies than I did in those years when I was studying English full time. And I think that's because I'm reading books that I really enjoy, that I want to read. I've discovered BookTube, and I've been watching what other people think about books, and so I get a pretty good idea of what I'm likely to enjoy. BookTube has been wonderful because I found a few booktubers who have very similar tastes to me, and I know that if they recommend a book, that I'm likely to enjoy it too. Just for some perspective, in 2012 I took the most English papers that I did in any year at university. That year I read 30 books. In 2014, we're now October, and I've read 47 books already. So that goes to show what you can read when you're reading the stuff that you really want to read. I've also told myself that if I get 50 pages into a book and really am not enjoying it, I will put that book down. Life's too short to read books that you don't enjoy. That said, not all of the books that I've read have been what I would call enjoyable, but I've certainly taken something from them, and I think that's really what I'm looking for in literature now. What I do miss about university is the opportunity to talk to other people about the stuff I've read, and that's where BookTube comes in. I love watching book reviews before and after I've read a book. I like reading the discussions and the comments, and I enjoy being exposed to books that I wouldn't otherwise find. Most of the books that I read at university were by fairly old, now dead white men, so it's nice to now have the opportunity to branch out, read more female writers, read more writers of colour, and that has certainly widened my reading experience. So yeah, there's quite a long-winded explanation of my reading history. I'm really interested to watch these sorts of videos. So if you have any thoughts, put them down in the comments, make a video response, go and watch Ashley and Steve's videos if you haven't already because they're fantastic. And yeah, let's keep this conversation rolling. Bye!